Welcome to the Fat2Fit HQ podcast. I am your guest, Tim Grabow, and along with me are Carol and JT of the Firearms Radio Network. On this podcast, we are chronicling our journeys from fat to fit. We talk about pursuing a healthier lifestyle, not only in diet, but in all areas of life.
Awesome. I think that was pretty good. Don't you think so, JT?
Absolutely.
Okay, we have our new co-host.
I didn't mess it up as bad as I thought I was going to.
You did great. That's fantastic. Welcome to the show, Tim Grabow.
Thank you.
Man, this is cool. You have never corresponded with JT, but you and I chatted a while back in the spring, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a little while back.
Yeah. And you guys, you and JT have been leading parallel lives, it sounds like, kind of.
Yeah, as I've listened to him on your show before, it kind of sounds similar.
Yeah, tell us what you mean by that. First, welcome both of you guys to the show. Let me start with that. JT, welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're here. You're regular. And Tim Grabow, welcome. Welcome
Thank
to the
you.
show. So folks know, I think, who you are, JT, because you're a co-host with me. So if you don't mind, I want Tim to tell the listeners a little bit about who he is and kind of give us a background. Just tell us what you do, and then we'll get into why we want to talk to you so bad.
All right. Well, I guess first off, definitely not a fitness expert.
Darn, never mind. We got to go.
Normal guy. I work in construction. I'm a father. I have 3 little girls.
Oh,
And I'd just kind of gotten to the point in life where I had put so much stuff before myself that I had let myself go. And so I kind of found myself on a journey to try and get my health back for the sake of my family and just feeling good again. And that's kind of what's brought me here, I guess.
yeah. And so you say you found yourself in like a low point, and JT and I are going to talk about that because that was last week for both of us. We've been talking offline, but we'll get into that later. Tim, tell us what you mean by found yourself in a low point. Like, when was that, and what did that look like?
All right. Let's see. I mean, I'm a big guy. I always have been. You know, I'm 6'3", and when I graduated high school, I was 255 pounds.
Okay.
But I was built like a big football player. You know, I lifted weights all the time. I ran miles every day. You know, I've just always been a big guy. And then later I found myself one time stepping on a scale and seeing 300 pounds, you know, just a few years after high school. And that scared me. And so I got really into martial arts. And I practiced like 3 hours a day, 6 days a week, and I lost a ton of weight, and I got down to like 245 pounds.
Now, how long ago was high school, real quick?
Oh, I'm 35. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 17, 18 years ago. So.
Okay, and so,
All
but
right.
after high school, you got into martial arts.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
after I found myself at like 300 pounds, I needed exercise, and so I got into martial arts, and
Okay.
I was able to eat whatever I want because I was working out so much it was ridiculous.
Nice. Okay.
Okay,
I
but
don't know
then
what that's like.
I bought a house, I got married, I had children, and all of a sudden I didn't have 3, 4 hours a day to dedicate to working out anymore. But yet I
Right.
still kept eating whatever I want.
Ah.
And so then you know, I found myself one day stepping on a scale and finding out that I weighed 330 pounds. And
Wait. You went from when you got out of high school.
okay,
You're a tall guy. You went from two what?
I graduated high school at 255. I went up to 300. I went down to 245 working out the ridiculous amount doing the martial arts stuff.
Right. When it was all about you, no babies, no
Yep.
nothing. Yeah.
Yep. And then when life got busy and I kept eating whatever I want, but just quit working out completely. And a few years later, stepped on a scale and found myself at 330 pounds. And
Oh
you
my.
know, I didn't feel good. I wasn't happy with myself. Um, And so I decided I needed to start figuring out a diet that worked for me and a really easy, small exercise plan, something that I could actually have time to work into a day. Just busy with between working all the time and taking care of the kids in our home. You
Uh-huh.
know, just trying to find time to fit everything together.
So that's what you did. You decided you decided to make a plan.
Hmm.
And you had tried to lose weight before, but you had a totally different lifestyle before.
That's right. Yep.
Okay, so where are we in time now? 2012, 2013?
Um, I guess I decided to try and make the change. We're 15 months ago, so
Okay.
not too far back, honestly.
Okay, so just a little over a year ago.
Yep.
Okay,
So
okay.
where did you start? Like, how did you
Yeah.
once you decided, what was your source of determining of all the different choices you had? How did you end up where you ended up, and
Sure.
what did that process look like?
All right. Well, being my size, I knew that the calorie in, calorie out thing had never really worked well for me because it left me always hungry. And so I might lose 20 pounds, in a week or two, and then I'd gain it right back again, because
Really?
you're destined to fail when you're just starving yourself. You know
Well,
what I
I
mean?
know that, but a lot of people don't know that. I mean, now I know that, but it took
Yeah.
a long time to figure that out.
So I spent a bunch of time online, just trying to research stuff. I started listening to your show right away, for information because I knew that it existed, but I hadn't listened much. But I had listened to other shows on the Firearms Radio Network.
Okay,
So right
okay. Why does
away,
everybody say that? Everybody says, I knew you had a show. I'd see it on the Firearms Radio Network, but yours is the one I never listened to.
well, I mean, I guess I found those shows because that's what I wanted to find out
Sure.
about, and I found
Okay.
your show, and it was time for me to want to find out about my health and fitness.
That's fantastic. I'm totally kidding. It's bizarre that we have a health show on the Firearms Radio Network. So I'm always thrilled when somebody says that they weren't
Well,
really.
thank goodness you do because I think for so many of us, it makes the fact that we know your show is there when we decide to make a change in our life, it's so easy for us to find.
Oh my gosh, Tim, what an awesome thing for you to say. Thank you. Because I
Yeah.
keep plugging along at it because people get on board that I need. People say, I totally need it. And I'm in a
Yeah.
bad place right now, but we're making progress. And JT and I want to talk a little bit about that at the end.
Sure.
But that's fantastic. So you found our show, and it was about 13 months ago or so? Or
Yeah, about that.
you had been
Mhm.
listening.
Mhm.
Okay, and then what? And
All
then
right.
the
So
fantastic thing.
I found your show right away and started listening to that, and then I went to Google, of course,
Of
and
course.
just looking for information, new science, new techniques for losing weight, and I actually kept on finding references to a book called The 4 Hour Body that was written by Tim Ferriss.
Yes.
Yes. And I read that book cover to cover in about 2 days.
Amazing. It's a fantastic book.
It is. I mean, there is so much information in there, no matter what it is you're looking to do with your body, whether it's gain weight, gain muscle, lose fat, rehab an injury. There's a lot of great information in that book. So I recommend that one to a lot of my friends who've asked me where to start. So,
Well, that's cool. That's really
um,
cool. We
yeah,
did
and
some
so,
shows on that. I'm going to put a link to his book, but also to some shows that we did where we did a few chapters out of that book. It's
okay.
recent. But okay, so go ahead. So you were learning, and you were learning about more recent science on how to lose weight.
Yeah, yeah. And so, no, at the same time, my sister had used something called HCG, and
That
do you
comes
guys know what
back.
that is?
Yes, our
Yes.
very first show ever, 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 episode 1. That was Zach's plan and how he was going
Okay.
to lose a bunch of weight. So go ahead, tell us about
So I
that,
know that they do injections and they do drops that you can put under your tongue, and
right?
uh, and she did the drops, And so she managed to lose about 30 pounds in a couple of months, and she
Wow.
looked really great. And
Wow.
so my wife actually saw her doing that and thought that it looked like a good idea. And so I said, well, if you want to do this, I'll try it with you.
Okay.
And so I tried that. And I also lost about 30 pounds in a couple of months.
Wow. Just
And
with the drops?
well, it's not just taking drops. There is a ridiculous diet that you
Okay.
do. And if you can make it through the first week or two of the diet, you can probably make it through, 6 or 8 weeks. Um, but it is so hard. It's like you can only eat like boiled chicken and strawberries, and that's
Oh,
really,
well, so it's not the drops. It's not the drops. It's
yeah.
it's the
And
drops
so
plus diet.
I really don't recommend that to anybody because I really don't know if that really helped me as much as as just stop eating the fast food and all the processed junk. And
Okay.
I've lost so much more weight since I quit doing that diet and just continued on with the what was called the slow carb diet in Tim Ferriss's book.
Okay.
That's kind of what I jumped onto right after I finished doing the HCG stuff. And
Okay.
so,
So the diet that the HGC, just for people who don't know, and I'll put a link. I don't know if we even should put a link because I don't think they even allow it anymore. I don't think it's I don't think it's recommended. But it's I know it's hormones. It's from pregnant women, that's how they make it, I think. And so when you're pregnant or when you're coming back from being pregnant, your body is burning a whole lot of extra calories. Your hormones are in that kind of a state. And so I think that's where that comes from is, supposedly it speeds up your metabolism or something like that. But I never heard that there was a diet that you had to follow with it.
oh,
And
and the diet is ridiculous too because I was Thanksgiving. I decided I was gonna allow myself to have a piece of pie,
okay.
and I stepped on the scale the next day, and I was up 4 pounds.
What? After the
I
piece of
I
pie?
I don't know what those hormones do to your body, but I don't think that they are worth it.
No, I mean, that's the thing is we all want
Uh,
a quick fix.
yeah.
But it's tough. And some things, it's sad because some things that are a quick fix will work for one person in the office, and
Hmm.
everybody will try that. Or like your sister or sister-in-law who was taking it, but you're different. You're a totally different person, and so it may or may not, yeah, work for you.
Yeah,
So anyway, you started following the slow carb diet.
that's right.
What is that about?
Essentially, it's glycemic index, trying to make sure you're not putting spikes into the sugar level in your blood.
Okay, that makes
So,
sense.
yeah, and so it's I mean, I found it basically paralleled the paleo diet with the exception of in Tim Ferriss's diet, you're allowed to eat beans and
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
moderate amounts of dairy, which seems like paleo people aren't really into.
The
So,
hardcore people say no. But now it's
yeah.
kind of getting around the fringe. It's getting kind of loosey goosey, but
Well, I mean, nothing against paleo. I think it's great. Meat and vegetables is awesome. I mean, that's
right.
really what we should eat. But for them to say, well, we weren't raising livestock, so we didn't have cows, so we didn't drink milk. Well, at the same time, we didn't have domesticated cattle, so the beef isn't the same anymore.
Oh, everything's different.
Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting. Chris Kresser did a talk at Paleo FX last year where he was like, "People, relax. I think we might be able to have beans because it's not what you think. We've adapted, we've changed. I don't want to miss." I'll actually put a link to his talk because he's like, people follow the heck out of him for paleo guidance and a lot more. And the whole primal blueprint with Mark Sisson, it's just a little bit more. What can you tolerate?
Hmm.
Not exactly what did the caveman eat and everybody's different. So your slow carb diet looked a little paleo-ish.
Yeah,
And
which actually was really convenient for trying to find recipes of stuff to make. You know, you Google
uh
paleo food or paleo recipes, and there's so much out there. So that made
Now,
it really
now,
simple.
did the slow carb diet have a high fat component to it? And was that did you follow that part of the diet, or was that I'm not familiar with it, so I don't know
Okay. You
if it's a
know,
higher fat type of diet as well.
off the top of my head, I don't recall any specifics about it being higher fat, but I do remember a lot of talk about um, olive oil and you- coconut oil and things of that nature. So obviously there is a fat aspect to it as well.
those healthy fats
Right,
they
right.
talk about. Now that's
Yep.
debatable too, what's healthy and what's not. You know. But but yeah, okay. So did you get the slow carb diet out of Tim Ferriss's book, or was
Yep,
that
yep.
just something on?
No, I got it right out of the book. Like I said, I
Awesome.
read that book in about 2 days and kind of took it to heart. And coming off of the doing the HCG stuff,
Mhm.
I was pretty proud of myself for having lost, that much weight, and I
30
could tell it,
pounds,
and
right?
yeah, and I
Yeah.
could already tell a difference in the way my clothes fit, and I
Fantastic.
didn't want to lose that, and I knew that if I went back to what I was doing before, I was going to end up right back where I was before. So that's why coming off of that, I knew I needed to jump to a diet that was sustainable for me, and that happened to be the slow carb diet.
Okay, awesome.
Yep. And then I guess from there, like I said, kind of found paleo, which, paleo-ish is kind of probably more the way I would describe the way I eat, like I said, meat and vegetables, healthy oils, and, nuts, and then one day I was listening to your show and I heard that Jack actually mention Vinny Tortorich, and
Oh,
I had never heard of him before. And so I checked out his podcast, and at first, I have to admit, I wasn't blown away. I listened to a couple of them, and
yeah.
I'm like, okay, I see what he's saying, and I didn't listen to him again for a while, and then I decided to give it a second try one day when I was running out of podcasts to listen to because a lot of times at work I throw in earbuds while I'm working
Yeah.
and kind of listen to podcasts all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I started listening to him again, and I found out, that he had really simplified the whole diet down to,
Yes,
no
he
sugar, no
has.
grain.
And that's the thing. And a lot of people either love or hate him because he has no filter. And
Yeah,
he doesn't
yeah.
want to have a filter. He's just very, what you see is what you get. And so
Hmm.
depending what show you tune into, he might be on a rant or he might be even, talking about diet or not. And the same thing happened to me. Jack turned me on to him. I listened. I was like, well, I don't know what they were talking about, but it really wasn't what I was into right then. But
Yep.
then recently, I like can't get enough because it is very simple. I just finished his book in a couple of days, and
Hmm.
the audio version, which is a fantastic book. Did you read his book?
I
The
read his book. I read his book just recently too.
Yeah, Fitness Confidential is an awesome, awesome audio read while you're working out. And Jack had told me that. And it's great because he goes off the script so much when he's reading the book. It's really fun to listen to.
Yeah,
So
what's interesting I found about that's kind of funny about the whole Vinny podcast thing is that if you go listen, you could listen to if you pick the wrong spot to go, or you listen to 3 or 4 podcasts in a row, you'd wonder where the health and fitness part, because because he goes off on so many different tangents. But what's interesting is he even says it in his book that if he was just to write a book that was a prescriptive, it would be 1 page or one
right.
Hmm.
sentence. No sugars, no grains. Next, but that's why it turns into a biography and a lesson on the fitness industry and health
Yeah,
clubs and
what's
all
going
the
on with
crazy.
Anna and her world, and it
It's just
is.
great because it's really not that he couldn't fill the time. How much can you talk about no sugars and no grains? I mean, that's it. So.
I know. I like that. I like that. And I did get more into who Anna is, and she's gonna be on the show, knock on wood, in a couple of weeks because
Oh, terrific.
Yeah, isn't that fantastic? But
She keeps talking about this cookbook, and
yeah,
I can't wait for that to come out.
I know, I know. She's got a great website, Gluten-Free Anna, I think, and we'll put a link to that too. But she's got a whole different perspective. She's probably closer to my age, and it's not that simple when she's got this gluten intolerance, and it's not all about losing weight, but of course our hormones are whacked at our age, and so she tells me she's got some great perspective to share for women on hormones with NSNG, and where it's really going to be interesting to hear from her. And then I went and found her on Jimmy Kimmel and different shows she'd been on, and I watched a bunch of episodes of her free radio. Is that what it's called, Jack?
Yeah, did you
Yeah.
see that bit where she played Suri as a waitress?
Yeah, my kids loved that. My kids loved that. They're like, she's going to be on your show. It's like, yeah, look, she's emailing me. She's calling me honey. So anyway.
She's really quite funny and really bright. And what's interesting is it's kind of interesting because they were like thrown together practically, friend of a friend kind of thing. Didn't really know each other, and now you'd think that they were fast friends. And of course they probably are now after a couple of years.
After a million
doing
shows together.
400 podcasts. But it's going to be real interesting to hear her dynamic, because I get the feeling with Vinny that from a personal perspective, he hasn't struggled much with weight or weight gain. It's been pretty easy for him outside of the cancer, obviously, but his health and fitness journey has been started at a young age, never fell off the wagon. He put on weight when he was playing football and then lost it right away. And then, for him, it seems to be easier than, say, for example, Anna's journey. So it's going to be real interesting to talk to her about, what reality is like for somebody who doesn't just shed the weight maybe as quickly as Vinny did when he decided that he wasn't going to play ball anymore and was, start riding bikes and stuff like that. So her perspective is going to be, I think, really interesting and applicable to the masses, maybe more so than a personal trainer,
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Absolutely. She seems regular. She seems very regular. So, and it's hard not to be when you just are a woman and you're past 20. You've got things and hormones and things going on. And you guys, too. Everything starts to change. Like you said, you graduated high school at a certain weight. 10 years later, hormones are different. Your lifestyle is different. So yeah, let's get back to that real quick. If you found Vinny, because Jack mentioned him, and you were already down 30 pounds and doing a slow carb as per Tim Ferriss, just cutting down on the carbs and finding paleo-ish recipes without being so strict paleo. You had some dairy, right? You had some, stuff like that. So then you start listening to Vinny, and it just seems so simple. Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, there was so much information that I was trying to process about what I needed to do, that to have it explained so simply, it's like, well, why didn't I realize that? And that's really what it came down to.
I think part of it is denial.
It is awesome having a way to describe it that simple, because when you see people you haven't seen in 6 months or a year and they look at you and hey, you look great, what are you doing? And you can just say, I just cut sugar and grain out of my diet, for the most part, and it's real easy, it works.
Yeah, Jack, I've heard you say that, right? Uh-oh, Jack, we don't hear you. There you go.
I think that's probably the thing that I've enjoyed most about being able to use the NSNG moniker, if you will, is that it simplifies the explanation of what you're doing, because I went down the whole, well, I'm doing paleo-ish, and then people would say, well, what's that? And I would say, well, it's this, and then you try to explain it, and then
the ancestral.
And then depending on people's perspective of evolution, and I mean, it literally can get really sideways in a hurry.
Well,
if
and then when you're
ate this, and
when you're trying to discuss a diet and then you have to talk about philosophy,
it's ridiculous.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, and people are passionate about this stuff. You know what's crazy is the PaleoFX people asked me to write an article last year. Okay, this was when I was at PaleoFX last April, and I
Hmm.
wrote up something. I was feeling real passionate at the time because we were getting ready to go to the conference. And I wrote this article about who is going to save America. I had just seen it on Reader's Digest. Who's going to save us? And so I wrote an article about I think if we're to be saved, it's the average person not being so pretentious, right? Not dogma about paleo or about anything.
Hmm.
Just the article is about, you know, just be a good example. You don't have to be perfect. And if somebody asks you, like you said, you don't have to get on and talk kinds of philosophy. You can just talk about how you feel good, and this is how you eat now, and that might catch on better than people, dissing each other's diets and stuff. And but I start the article by saying, okay, we all know we're sick. We know that America is sick. We know that America is being poisoned. Of course, I'm talking about toxins and stuff like that. And we know that we will probably live longer than the next generation, which is the first time in history, but that's what scientists are saying now, right? This is the first time that our kids may not live as long as we will. But the way
Hmm.
I said it was, we know we may live, or we know we're going to live longer than the next generation. I was trying to put some hooks out there. I am getting, they're bashing my article out on the internet because people are so passionate about this stuff that a couple of people have already commented on that article going, what is she talking about? Those statements are not true. That's not true. We're not sick. We're not being poisoned. We're not being, and that's not even what the article's about. The article is about just don't be so ugly and try to just be, we should all just try to be like a good example. But
Hmm.
I don't know that a lot of people read past, and I think people troll paleo's websites and stuff, and then just try to bash what it is. Because a couple of people came to my defense and wrote, "Do you really dispute that we're being poisoned?" Of course, that was the opposite of what I wanted.
Well, you look at something that's really simple in our kids' diets, like fruit snacks or Pop Tarts, or I mean, you
Oh,
look at that stuff and read the side of the box and read all the junk that's in there. It's amazing. I
I,
mean,
I know, and we can get philosophical about it, Tim. You're right. It's stuff we can't pronounce, and some of it might be just fine for them.
hmm.
Some of them there is no disputing. My best friend is a nurse, and she's been a nurse for very many years, and without getting too weird, all the little girls that are starting their cycles so early in elementary, she's an elementary um, nurse, and these girls, it's a grade earlier and then a grade earlier and I don't know, that might be hormones, it might be, I mean, you can't dispute that as a country we're health wise not in a good place compared to 20, 30 years ago.
Well,
We're
yeah, I mean, I don't think I eat that much differently than most of my friends or the people I work with or anybody else I know. And yet, I mean, I felt sick. I wasn't healthy, and yeah, I think that I was pretty much representing the average American diet.
right,
It,
right. We all, and I still eat a percentage of the average American diet. There's no way I'm not perfect at all, but I feel much better when I'm trying to avoid a lot of the convenience foods for sure.
yeah, and especially right now being the holidays, it's kind of been a reminder to me how much better I feel eating, healthier.
So how did the holidays go for you? And tell us real quick before we get we're way off track, but you lost 30 pounds with the HGC stuff, and then you
Yep,
needed to find a different way to eat. So you started manipulating your carb intake.
right.
And then you just cut out sugars and grains. So pretty much sugar or anything that turns to sugar.
That's right.
And so that's very simple, like you said, and easy to explain to people.
Yep.
How much more did you drop?
I lost a total of 102 pounds.
Dang.
And so I found myself getting all the way down to 228.
Oh my God, and that's lighter than high school weight.
Oh yeah, yeah. I still had a couple of pairs of pants from high school tucked away in the back of my closet. And it is so great to be able to put those on and be like, these are nice and roomy. Look at how good I feel, you
Oh
know.
my God. That picture you texted, and thank you for sending that to me last spring. It was a picture of you in some pants. You had these jeans pulled so far. It's like another person could fit
Yeah,
in
yeah.
those pants. And
And that was a pair of pants that I had put away, you know, somewhere between the 300 pounds and the 330 pounds. They didn't fit anymore. So,
oh my God.
yeah.
Well, congratulations, man. You know,
Thank you.
Jack has a similar story. He just got real simple, right, Jack, with no sugar and no grains, and
Yeah, it was pretty much the same. I mean, I went through the whole. I didn't do the Tim Ferriss thing, but I was more, kind of found paleo but really, when it comes right down to it, the common denominator, I think, is the no processed foods, which by the way eliminates the vast majority of the grain and sugar intake if you just cut out processed foods.
yeah.
I mean, obviously the obvious bread and chips and stuff like that go too, but all the stuff that comes in boxes and bags and the edible products, as Jonathan
Hmm.
Baylor calls them, I mean, that's really, I think, where it really kind of started for me, and then but the simplification was a big deal as well. It was funny when you guys were talking about the militancy of certain beliefs. It was funny. I was reading Twitter this morning, and someone on Twitter, they posted a joke that said, a paleo guy and an atheist and a CrossFitter, all walked into a bar, um, you know, uh, um, and the punchline was that they only know this because they told everyone within 2 minutes, and 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 that's really the truth, because I mean, the people that are of those three beliefs, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not enough just to be paleo. You have to tell everybody on the planet
Ah,
that you are, and why it's the only way, and all this. At least that seems to be something that happens in that community more often than not. Now, you can't paint with too broad a brush, but there are a lot of people that feel very strongly about their beliefs, and man, they plant the flag and they they rally around it, as they
yeah.
say. So
It's
there's
ironic because Michelle Norris and Keith Norris, who are the ones who put on Paleo Effects, and that is the biggest conference in the world for the paleo movement, they are not so militant as you would think. They're very welcoming. Now, I don't know about how they eat. They may eat like that and believe to their core that that's the only way to eat, without any, I don't know how they eat, but I know that they're very welcoming of different perspectives. They welcomed me to speak last year about how you don't have to be 100%, you don't have to be perfect. They, have Mark Sisson, who's more primal blueprint, and do what you can do kind of thing, and Kiefer, who obviously is not paleo, but he knows a lot about manipulating carbohydrates and then doing this carb night and carb backload. So it's funny that the people who follow the people seem to be the ones who take up such grab your torch and pitchforks and we're going to take these other guys down.
Yeah, I mean, all those people have probably found something that really works for them,
Yeah.
and it's so easy when something works for you to say, this is the way, you got to do this, try
Right.
this, and I can
Yeah.
I can see how people fall into that trap.
Oh, and you just get passionate
Yeah.
because we are in trouble. I don't care what those people telling me I'm lying on that article. America is in trouble. And it's too confusing when you hear, like you said, you did a Google search, but you were lucky that you got to a hold of Tim Ferriss's book early on.
Yeah, I mean, I kept on seeing that name of that book pop up in all sorts of different articles, and so
Yeah.
it's like,
So
well, if it's being referenced so often, I should probably just read the thing.
isn't that interesting? And even the HGC thing, whatever it was that worked for you enough to motivate you, that helped you drop some weight initially to help,
Hmm.
because I think a lot of people will pick up the diet that whoever's doing at work and go, okay, well, it worked for her, I'm going to try it, and then they don't see results, or they don't see results for very long, or they plateau, or they adjust, or whatever, and then they give up. And you go back to your old ways because it's just too confusing, everything you hear out there. Or what you used to do doesn't work anymore. You used to
Hmm.
be able to run a few miles, eat a little bit less, and it would drop off. And everybody I know, that was the younger us. That is not It's
So what about that? What about the obviously the diet thing kind of morphed? Were you doing any
Mhm.
physical activity or exercise during any of this time when
Yeah,
you lost the
yeah.
100?
A far cry from the way I used to approach exercise. I mean, even at 330 pounds, I was an active person. I'm an outdoorsman, so I've always been into hiking and skiing and kayaking and biking, things like that. But I never really considered any of that exercise. That's just kind of stuff I did for fun.
uh-huh.
And so, I still, spend a lot of time doing that kind of stuff, and that's great. But in that same book, there was a story about a woman who achieved some really phenomenal results with a real minimal exercise program, and it describes the program in that book using the Russian kettlebell
Ah,
and
yeah.
yeah, doing some simple calisthenics and using that, and just a few minutes a day. So I took that same program and kind of modified it a little bit for myself just to make it just a little bit tougher. But I still wanted to be able to squeeze it into a 5 minute period where I got home from work and I could do this real quick before I jump in the shower and start spending time with my family.
What did
You
it
know,
look like? You had Russian kettlebells.
well, the workout from beginning to end, 20 two-handed kettlebell swings, and then 20 hip thrusts, and then 20 more swings, and then 20 flying dogs, 20 more swings, and 20 push-ups.
What are flying dogs?
Flying dogs, get down on your hands and knees,
Okay.
and then stretch out your left arm in the air and your right leg behind you the other way.
Oh, yes, yes.
And then go back and forth and so
That's
on. So
okay, okay, okay.
it's supposed to help with the balance and your core muscles.
Right, right, right. But
Yeah,
you're doing interval training there, because then the
yeah, but
Russian.
I'm doing it for 4 or 5 minutes. I'm just trying to get through it as quick as I can with good form, so I don't hurt myself. And
Okay.
then that's it. And I only do that every other day.
You still do that?
And yeah, I still do that. And quite often I'll forget about it. So there's weeks where I might only get to it once or twice just because we had something that I had to go do right away when I got home. Because a lot of times I'm rushing home from work so I can get out the door again to go pick my kids up from school or daycare. So this is my 4 or 5 minute quick exercise routine that I can at least make manageable to fit into my lifestyle. So.
Wow.
And I at first I was just doing the diet, and I was probably down about 65 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I hit about a week and a half, a couple weeks, where all of a sudden I wasn't losing weight.
Ugh.
And up until then, I had consistently seen at least a few pounds a week coming off. And so I decided I was going to incorporate that as a way to just kind of step it up, and kind of break the plateau. And I thought that was a really good way to approach it. So.
So all you use are kettlebells in your home.
Yeah, I have a kettlebell,
A
and
kettlebell. Isn't that
I bu- I
fantastic?
bought one that was adjustable in weight,
Uh-huh.
that you can add weight to it,
Okay.
and so the kettlebell on its own weighs 22 pounds, and then you can add 10-pound weight increments, and so
Okay.
right now I have it at 52 pounds.
Okay. So this is like 3 to 4 times a week, though. I
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably consistent with what we are hearing, that maybe once a week, maybe twice a week,
hmm
depending how much time you're putting in that workout, you're just spreading it out and
Yeah, and
consistently.
like I said, I work construction, so I'm pretty much on my feet all day. I'm always lifting heavy things. I'm doing stuff all the time. And this is
Yeah.
just kind of a way to make sure that I'm doing enough stuff all the time,
Wow.
Right.
Wow. So you feel like it's more about the diet than anything?
Yeah, I would say it's 80 to 90% diet. you know.
It's interesting that I've always tried to, people ask all the time, so what did you do? Did you start, did you start running? Did you start doing this? And I think people think, and especially this time of year, right? I mean, that's why the gym memberships and the sales and the weight, and all that, and it's everybody wants to start with, the workout side. And I think I've heard a number of different people say that, you can't out exercise a poor diet. And I think that's so true. I had a neighbor come over a couple days ago, and he was asking me, and he wants to lose some weight, and he said, well, he's going to start walking and all this running and this and that, and all that's good, I guess. But I always say, I think it's 90% at least personally, just because, and no one really wants to hear that.
Because, no one wants to hear that.
Because that's the most in your control, I think.
I know from experience you can out exercise a poor diet, but it's 3 to 4 hours a day, 6 days a week of extremely intense work. And I weigh 15 pounds less now than I did at my best when I was doing that much work.
Yeah.
And so I know the diet is so much easier and contributes so much more. But you can do it. Yeah.
Realistically, it's true. It's crazy too. Do you get cravings now? I mean, you've made all this progress, Tim. You've kept this weight off for how long now? What? 6 months or more?
Yeah, probably. I still once in a while step on the scale and see I'm down another pound here or there. But for the most part, I'd say the last 6 months or at least 4 or 5 have been just kind of real steady.
Yeah, but you started losing weight over a year ago. So you've been at this game for a while, and you've adjusted to not having so many sugars and grains in your diet. Yep. Do you feel like you miss them?
Well, I was real militant about not having any sugar and any grain for a real long time. And I got to a point where it's like I felt like I had done enough for myself and my health that I wanted to be able to just go out with my kids once in a while and go out for pizza and have some ice cream.
Yeah.
And so I started giving the carb night thing a try.
Oh.
And I haven't gained weight because of it, but I am so much more tempted. I do my carb thing on Saturday evening, so that way I can, and I can make sure that I'm home with the family and we can go out for dinner and stuff. And I know on Sunday that I feel like garbage and I want to eat more of it.
So true. So true. And that's not for everybody.
No.
But I'm with you.
I think I found myself to the point now where I realize that maybe I don't have to do this every week. I know I'm not going to hurt myself by doing it once in a while, but I think it's time to maybe for myself anyway to step it back to my friends are going out for dinner, it's okay for me to join them, or it's a birthday party, I'm going to go over here and have a couple of beers with my friends and some chicken fingers or what have you.
Special occasion kind of thing.
But I felt like I was kind of going out of my way on Saturday to make sure I ate what I wanted, and I don't think I really need to do that because I really feel like garbage the next day, and sometimes even later that night. A couple weeks ago, my wife and I ordered a bunch of Chinese food. And I don't know if it's the MSG in it or what, but I mean, I was like in a coma on the couch 2 hours later. Yeah.
That's that insulin spike, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's crazy because Carol and I were talking over the last couple of days just about how the holidays were. We're actually texting, and I was so much better last year over the holidays than this year. I kind of managed everything up to a event, which was Christmas, and then I just kind of did whatever I wanted. And then I got back on the wagon the next day, and that was it. It was a one-day deal. And this year, it kind of started, around the 22nd, with people coming home and baking and gifts of food and stuff like that, and it just never stopped. It just didn't stop, and I couldn't walk through the kitchen without grabbing something that was just there. And then at one point in time, we got down to like the last treat, and I literally threw it away, and I said, "Man, that's great, it's over." And then the next day, my daughter, who's in town from college, baked a bunch of stuff because we had more family coming. So I thought I had weathered the storm, and now there's and of course it's about 2/3 of what she made was gluten free, but it was, I mean,
I bet it wasn't sugar free though, was it?
Right. Not grain free, not sugar free.
Certainly not sugar-free, and a gluten-free muffin or a gluten-free cupcake with icing on it is not exactly in the spirit of NSNG, especially when you have two of them. But so it really this holiday season was a little tough. Tim? How'd you do in the holidays, or how do you manage the holidays?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what. I quite honestly haven't stepped on a scale in the last couple days, but. The week before Christmas, I got together with my mom's side of the family, my uncles and my cousins and stuff, and so I use that as my cheat day, or my little carb binge or what have you. And then I ate great again up until Christmas Eve when I was together with my wife's family, and then Christmas Day we got together with my parents, and so. I kind of ate like garbage both those days. But then I ate great again up until New Year's Eve, and then we went out for dinner. So we went to a steakhouse. So I did have my meat and vegetables, and I'm not quite sure about the creme brulee at the end of the night, or the couple of IPAs that I may have drank while eating.
That's what Vinny talks about, putting some life into living, though.
Yeah, I did that.
Well, I am totally with you on the carb night thing. I think there's pros and cons psychologically to that. It worked for me really well, I felt like, for a while, especially just to maintain, because I didn't feel like I was depriving myself. And I did miss a lot of carby things, and I knew I could have them on Saturday. And although Sunday it was hard for me to rein it back in, I was always able to rein it back in. Mm-hmm. It's when the rest of my life got a little stressful and busy that I started having more than one carb night, and then going, you know what, I've heard maybe just eating carbs at night. I've heard Kiefer say that, and I just started
so now you're kind of using that as your excuse.
Every excuse I could hear I piled on, and 10 pounds later, and it's so fast. Fast it came on. I did a show this fall, and it was crazy because so many people, I was avoiding doing a show for so long because I was just so embarrassed at how far off the wagon I've gotten.
Yeah, and I remember that episode.
Yeah, so many people came out of the woodwork going, oh my gosh, me too, and what are we going to do for the holidays? Oh no. It was like everybody felt like that. Not everybody, but many people. So it was really actually December, although I gained even more weight in December. And that's really discouraging to think, okay, I'm going to do Thanksgiving, I'm going to do the holiday party at work and Christmas Eve, and that's about it. And it seems like I did quite a bit of damage on those few days because I'm sure some of it's water, but I'm 16 pounds heavier than I started the year last year. And to me, to somebody who for a few years had really been keeping the weight loss down, that's a big jump. And so, it's psychological, like I was saying. It was at first it was working for me, and then the psychology of it, I just kind of let that go. I don't know, it stopped working for me, but that's more about me.
I know that eating this kind of diet, the meat and vegetables and a little bit of fruit and some healthy fats, that really works for me. And so I approach the holidays as I don't really care if I gain a few pounds because there's a couple extra, carb nights or cheat days in there. I still want to be able to enjoy enjoy life with my family and share in these events and do that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, that's a good attitude. That's
And
what I
so
was
it's like,
saying to myself as I ate that pecan pie.
well, you know, I know that eating like that works for me, and so no matter what happened during the holidays, you know, I'm gonna continue eating this diet, and it'll adjust itself out. So, you know, I probably won't step on another scale again just for a couple of weeks because I don't want to beat myself up mentally about it, you know. And I just keep doing what I'm doing, and in a couple of weeks when I step on a scale and I see that I'm still the same, you know, 230 pounds that I have been, then it's not an issue. So,
That's so wise. That's so wise that because you know what works, and we know what works, Jack, you know what works. I know what works. But because I wasn't doing it lately, I'm totally beating myself up. I'm totally in the gutter, and I'm ashamed and embarrassed of everything. And when I know how to fix it, it's not like rocket science. I know these things work for me, and I
mhm.
can totally correct it. So why am I so you're right. Why am I so bummed out about it?
So Tim, is 230 the ultimate? Like, are you happy there? Is that where? Are you done? In other words, if you could
Well,
stay there, is that where you're at, or are you?
I tell you, I mean, my wife tells me I look great, and she thinks I'm gonna start looking too skinny if I lose
Oh,
much more. You know, which is
nice.
really nice of her to say. But I mean, I'll tell you what, there's a part of me that's a little blown away that I've lost 100 pounds and I don't have a six pack yet.
So
And
the
so
six pack is the
I
goal.
wouldn't, you know, I mean, there's a part of me who maybe wouldn't mind seeing, you know, what myself at 210 looks like. But, you know,
Ah,
I'm just gonna keep eating the way I've been eating, because I don't feel the need to push myself any further.
yeah.
And if you know, if I can continue to somehow maybe just lose a couple more pounds a month, you know, a year from now I might find myself there. But
Right.
Hey,
I'm not
That's a good
striving to
attitude.
push myself. I've really found a spot where I'm happy and the diet's easy and the exercise is easy.
God,
And
you sound so well adjusted.
yeah, so you know,
You're not a freak
you
like me
know,
and JT at all.
well, I'm not, you know, I'm not trying to become a professional marathon runner or something.
Yeah.
You know, there's no reason to for me to push myself to that limit. So
That's
I'm pretty good right here. You know, the only other thing as far as exercise that I will kind of incorporate more in the spring is a little bit of cardio. And
mm.
to do that, I use something else I've read about called the Tabata method.
Ah,
Are
yes.
you guys familiar with
I
that?
am. I
Yeah.
am not. I'm not.
Basically, what it is the idea of 20 seconds of all-out exertion, like sprints, and 10 seconds of rest, and doing it 8 times. So once again, it's 4 minutes.
It's just 4 minutes.
Yep. And
And it's
the,
intense interval
the
training
the
because you're going
latest
all out.
science is showing that, you know, that people are getting the same results from that as far as cardiovascular that they do running, you know, 6 miles a day.
Yeah. I'm going to
And
send,
well, I
there's
can
an
tell you
app.
which one I want to do more. So
You can tell which one you want to do more.
uh,
4 minutes or 6 miles a day.
yeah.
I'm gonna
And
send you. I'm gonna send Jack a link, or I'll put it in the show note. There's an app, a
mhm.
Tabata app, and it's free, and probably on Android too. That it's your timer, and it tells you work, and a 20-second timer goes down, and then it tells you rest in 10 seconds, and then work. And
That's exactly what I use.
yeah,
Is one of those free timers on my iPhone.
it's
Yeah.
fantastic because you don't have to think about it or look at it because it's got a sound feature where you can do jumping jacks for those 20 minutes, but I mean all out, or you can do push-ups all out, or you can do sit-ups all out, or it's
Mhm.
just doing super intense. You could be on a bike, you know, a stationary bike or the treadmill or whatever, but it's 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, 20 seconds on, and it's pretty intense once you get up to the round 6, round 7. It's tough.
Yeah, but at
Which
the same time,
which app is it? I'm just happen to be looking at it right now, so I was trying to
There's
find
the
it.
little orange man is the one I like. It's an orange and white background, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's called Tabata Timer, But there's even internet sites that if you don't have an iPhone, you just get on the internet, and there's sites out there that'll time it for you.
The one that I've been using is a free one called Seconds, and they have a paid version, which is supposed to be a little easier to use, but for some reason, I guess I've decided $2 is too much to spend. So.
I know, $1.99, and you're like, what? I'm outraged. I know, because there's so much free out there. But I always used a free one in, and I don't know what it's called, but it's in iTunes, you know, in the Apple Store, that was just a Tabata timer, and I'm sure all of them, and one with decent reviews would work fine. I'll just put the link, and you can send me the link to yours too, Tim, and we'll put the links to the ones that we use in the show notes today. Oh, I should say today's show notes are at fat2fithq.com/114. When the audio podcast comes out, the show notes will be out for that.
So, Tim, let me ask you a question. I actually started this when we had Vinny on the show, and I was kind of curious because I get asked this question a lot as I was trying to go through the processes that, you know, what book or what did you, you know, and some things I've read and I'm glad I did, but I wouldn't necessarily give it to somebody as the read this and do this and you'll be fine kind of thing. But after everything that you've seen or I experienced, I guess, and someone was to ask you, hey, give me one book to read, where would you start?
You know, I mean, for me, the one book is the, you know, the 4-Hour Body. You know, I mean, that's, like I said, no matter what somebody wants to do, there's information in there on how to do it. And I really think that it's super easy to read. It kept me entertained. And so that's where I would tell people to start.
I love that suggestion because I never read the whole book. It's like an encyclopedia where you can look at the table of contents and go directly to a chapter specifically about, you know, best bang for your buck on fat burning, or.
And he said he designed it that way, and he didn't want people to read it cover to cover. But to tell the truth, I really enjoyed what I was reading so much that I wanted to know more. So
yeah,
I did
so
read
you did read it cover to cover. Either way, way. Well, that's fantastic. So Jack. Okay, you're Mr. No Sugar, No Grains of the Fat2Fit HQ podcast. And tell us what you said. Your December kind of fell apart on the holidays, right?
Yeah.
But you're in a better place today because we texted.
Well, yeah, but I'm 48 hours in. I just lost, for lack of a better word, I literally just lost my edge, and I felt like and it was way before the holidays, I would argue. And when I holidays, I'm talking Thanksgiving, you know, was the beginning. And and even people that, like, I have a lot of friends on that are on Fitbit, and they're like, what happened to you? Did you lose your Fitbit? Did you?
No, what's worse?
Because I was a pretty much a consistent, you know, no less than 12 or 15,000 step a day person, and it wasn't because of my job. I mean, if I didn't go do something on purpose, I was a 3,500 steps a day type person. So I had to go get 9,000 or 10,000 steps by walking or whatever, and all of that just started to fall off. And I can't even explain really why, other than I just, didn't do it a couple days, and 2 turned into 3, turned into 4, turned into then other things fill the time, and then you start kind of feeling sorry for yourself, about the fact that, so it wasn't really until, I don't know, when was that, Carol? A couple days ago. Carol signed me and Shelly and others up kind of for this weight loss challenge thing, and I said, this might be something that I'm just competitive enough that maybe this might kind of knock me over the top. It's a little, so I kind of said, well, I need to get started on that, and so we're kind of back at it, and I'm encouraged the last couple of days because I feel so much better to be back kind of doing the right thing, and some of it's psychological, and I'm sure some of it is physical as well, biological, because I just feel that I'm eating, better and more healthy, and It's only 48 hours, but we'll see.
I know, but it's a major 48 hours, Tim. This is this weight loss challenge. This woman does it on Facebook. She has to manage the whole thing because people put in money. There's 100 and something people putting in $30, $35 each, and so somebody's going to win a lot of money. But you get points not just for weight loss. You get points for the things you do each day. So the things you do, tell me, this is not rocket science. You can eat however you want. You can eat however you want, but you get a point for journaling that somehow. Writing it down, MyFitnessPal, or wherever you want to keep a record. You get a point for that. Get a point for drinking enough water a day, 64 ounces or whatever. You get a point for getting enough sleep. I know you've heard in Tim Ferriss's book all about the sleep and how important all that is.
That's something that I didn't even mention to you before, though, either, is that I was suffering from sleep apnea. And,
Really?
Since losing the weight, I've completely quit using the CPAP machine.
Amazing.
And my wife says I don't snore as much. And,
of course.
The exact same thing happened to me, although I was accused of snoring this week. But
I didn't say I didn't snore. I said not as bad.
Not as bad. Right?
But I know that I didn't sleep well with the machine on either, just because I thought it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the idea of using it in the first place.
Yeah.
And so
interesting.
I was pretty eager to ditch it and just quit using that and see what happened. And I wake up feeling rested now. So
well, 100 pounds, Tim. Of course, you're going to sleep better. It's going to clear up a ton of things, I'm sure. So that's the thing. Of course, Jack feels better 48 hours later because he puts the money down, and you get all motivated to do these 15 things, or I don't know if it's 10 things or whatever. But it's things like, encourage another person in the challenge. These things, the basic things about, eat enough fruits or vegetables a day, a couple of cups of that. No sugary treats, and she includes artificial sweeteners in that. So people take issue with, well, it's not sugar, it's artificial sugar. But the point is, if you're tied to the sweet taste, you're, what are you doing for yourself by keeping those things in your life? It's very interesting. But I'm sure, and Jack's like, weight's dropping off of him now after 2 days. But I'm sure some of it's water, because we know the carbs hold water. But it is psychological. It is, you feel better about yourself when you're getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, and not eating as much crap. It's just, you just do.
It sounds so simple, doesn't it?
It does, but it's not. It's hard. It's hard. I don't care how simple. It's not easy. It's simple. It's not easy.
So, Tim, what is how's your family responded to 100 pounds off of their dad and off of their husband and, son, brother, whatever the relationships you have? How's your family responded?
Oh, they've been super supportive. My dad is a super athletic person, and him and I we ride a bike together a lot, and him and I were always like the same pace. It was right about 18, 19 miles an hour. We could hold out, pretty well, and we would take turns drafting and switch every couple miles. And it's been fun for me now because I was blessed with really young parents,
right.
And so my dad's only in his mid-50s,
wow.
And so he keeps, he was always pushing me, and now I can just completely blow by him. And so it's been kind of fun, but they've been super supportive. It's been really neat, my wife tells me I look awesome, and my daughters, I have twin girls who are about to turn 6, and my youngest daughter is about to turn 2, and so they're too young to really notice.
Yeah.
And I've always been active with them, no matter how big I was, just because I've always found those things to be fun. So I don't really know that my children have noticed, but my friends sure have, and my wife sure does, and so it's been really great.
Well, congratulations. You deserve all that.
That's awesome.
I don't care how simple it is. It's not easy. it's easier to just continue doing what we're doing and could be,
Mhm.
because it's effort to find things that aren't as convenient to eat but better for you
Yeah.
and to move. And I know your job has you moving, but you have to, even if it is 5 minutes 3 or 4 times a week, that's early that you have to get up to make sure you do that. And that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think one of the funnest aspects for me has actually been seeing people that haven't seen me in about a year, since I really started this.
Yeah.
And I've had people I've known my entire life, but I haven't been able to see in a year or so. See them at a social function, and they walk right past me, and I'm like,
You
hey,
gotta
hey, and they turn around like, oh, I didn't even recognize you, and that's really a great feeling. And at first, I felt a little bad that I had let myself get to a point where now people don't recognize me because I'm finally thin or fit or what have you.
yeah.
But I've come to realize that it's a giant compliment, and I actually kind of get a kick out of it. So,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. 'Cause I don't think anybody should feel that bad about letting themselves get out of shape. It's ridiculously easy now. I mean, our whole society is built around making things easier for us, and along with that goes the food, and not everybody really realizes how this type of food is affecting them.
hmm
And then again, there's still all that old science of just move more and eat less, but eat less of these crummy bars, of these 100-calorie crap that's going to, make your sugar
Well,
go through the
that's
roof.
just it. For so long, I ate so much of that stuff thinking I was doing myself a favor, only
Right.
to
Everybody does.
come to realize that I wasn't doing myself any favors at all. So,
Isn't that interesting? That's why I totally applaud. We go back and forth. Like, is it carb night? Is it carb backloading? Is it carb cycling? Is it paleo? Is it just no sugars, no grains? It's not any of those for everybody. Everybody's different, and psychologically, if a carb night works really well, to me, I feel like carb night once a week, an intentional insulin spike makes the most sense to me
hmm
scientifically. Scientifically, you get your body in this great state of fat burning, but it might plateau if you don't intentionally spike it.
right.
Now, you may not be the person that can handle that. Like Sunday might be too hard for you to stop with the insulin spiking. You know, you never know. But those people are rocky. If you see some of these people, I mean, look at Kiefer, good night. Look at him and Andrea
hmm
Jingle and Dr. Patel and them and Jeff Fry. They're all, and we know a lot of people in our community who are having great success with that. But again, like Jack says, the common denominator is we're all a difference in subtleties. The big thing is nobody's eating pasta, bread in huge quantities, tons of grains and
hmm
packaged processed foods. That is nobody's road to fitness. I'm sorry.
Well,
No.
what's funny, if what I think was interesting, we started off talking a little bit about Vinnie Tortorich's book, but one of the things that he talks about is about the way that his parents and grandparents ate. Like a lot of people want to talk about paleo, how did the caveman eat? But I would just say, how did someone that grew up on a farm in the 30s and 40s eat?
Right.
That's and what
hmm
they ate was eggs and bacon, and someone's going to say, well, biscuits and gravy, and I got it. But the truth
Yeah.
is, they ate real food. I mean, they
They
ate real
moved
food,
more too if you were working on a farm.
Well,
and
I'm
they
that.
moved
sorry.
more, but they didn't have a bunch of box and bagged, and with labels that are a zillion words long that you can't pronounce, and it was life was simpler, and I think the byproduct of that was that I think we've heard people say that, you remember when we were all kids, there was the fat kid,
hmm
and now they're all fat,
I
or
don't know.
and there's this. I mean, what I mean is, relatively speaking, is there's the skinny kid is the anomaly. It's like there used to be the one heavy guy or heavy person in the class, and this goes back. This is what and I think that it's symbolic of the fact that, or symptomatic, I guess, of the fact that when people were eating, cereals and bars and things like that as just part of their every single day, that's all they've ever known, and really the society has done a disservice to educate, because it just seems like it's what they're just doing what they're told. I don't think anybody's doing it on purpose, or they're not.
Right, we're all just trying to figure it out.
They're literally just doing what someone told them, that Captain Crunch has all of the nutrients that they need,
Right,
and
it says it right on the box, Jack.
I know. It's and so it's tough, because I think that how do you put the toothpaste back in the tube once you've got so many people that believe a particular way, I don't know.
I think it has, you get more Tims Grabows out there, and more Jacks that aren't being pretentious about what they're doing. They just explain it very simply. I feel better when I do this, and this helps me lose weight, and it's not miserable. Some people will tell you that it will be miserable, and their life will be miserable if they cannot have pasta and bread at every meal. They will.
I mean, I think the first couple of weeks. The first couple of weeks are hard for everybody, but once you get over that hump, and you kind of feel good again.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to see some progress to make it worth it, and then that snowballs, because you don't miss it as much once you found other alternatives and things to what you were having, and then follow Carb Night or Life into Living, new NSNG or whatever, and it's not like you can't have them ever. It just shouldn't be 70% of your plate for every meal, and that's the thing. I think kids can handle. My personal opinion is I think they can handle more grains in moderation, and rice is very different than Pop-Tarts to me. The problem is when I give my kids pasta, they want a lot more pasta. They don't really want anything else that might be available on the plate, or it's very interesting, because they don't do that with rice, and they don't do that with potatoes. They do it with the mac and cheese and the pastas and stuff. And so we're trying to kind of rein it in without cutting them off completely. It's we could get all philosophical, like you say, but I think it's hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube, like Chuck said.
Yeah. Well, hey, Carol, just so I don't get blasted in the reviews. I didn't really want to. I didn't mean to say that all kids are
you
fat.
You did, though. You did. You said they're all fat.
I know. I what I meant to say is that it's kind of like your article about the being poisoned, but it's just like I was reading something the other day, and I just pulled it up and about childhood obesity, and it says that it's doubled in children and quadrupled in adolescents in the past 30 years. The percentage of children 6 to 11 years in the United States that were obese increased 7%.
It's on the rise. I knew what you meant.
I mean, it's crazy stuff, and I think really, it's I just didn't want to paint with too broad a brush there. There's my disclaimer.
Right. We don't think all kids. I mean, obviously, all kids aren't fat, and even the ones. But I think I get your point that the ones who are having trouble with their weight and staying healthy, I feel for the parents very much, because we need to get our kids out of the house so early in the morning, and I can't control what they eat at school. We've tried to pack a healthy lunch. They're not interested in it. They trade it around and all of that. And I've got 3 very different kids, and none of them want to eat anything like paleo. It's always sneaking in healthy stuff for them. So it's a constant battle, and you feel like, am I doing more psychological damage by telling them this is, you're not growing right, or you're not going to grow right, or do you just relax and then you're too far gone? I don't know. I feel for parents, because it's a mixture of that, of not, I don't know. I had Arturo wrote me about the article and said, well, you put in there that people don't have enough time, and I think people have enough time. It's a choice. It's a matter of priorities. And I'm like, you know what? I'm thinking to myself, that is spoken like a guy who has no kids, and is not a full-time mom working with night school and everything else. Yeah, we just spent our entire weekend preparing food for the week, because it's January and we're all heavier than we were in November. It is a matter of priorities, but it's difficult. It's not that easy. I think, though, Tim would probably agree that once you get on a roll, And once you start feeling better, it does become worth it. But I was
Yeah,
talking about how people make change and how people start.
once you find what works for you and what your family will tolerate,
Yeah.
it makes it
Yeah,
really. Uh,
it's
I
true.
I had to find recipes that my whole family would enjoy, and another resource people might want to look at is Pinterest.
Yeah.
That's like somebody's taken the best stuff on the internet and saved it somewhere, and
Yeah.
so you go on there and you type in NSNG recipe or type in paleo recipe, and so much really great stuff comes up. And so I have about 20 recipes that are my go-to recipes every week that are stuff that both me, that fits into my diet and I like, and my wife and kids eat it too.
And
And
you've
so
gotten good and fast at making it and stuff.
yeah. I don't really necessarily have to look at the recipes anymore, other
Yeah.
than trying to figure out what I want to make that week. I might scroll through and just kind of be like, oh yeah, we haven't had this one in a while or that one.
Well, so I
That's cool.
totally agree with Arturo too that it is about priorities and it is about where you want to put your time. Um, and he's an awesome resource in our MyFitnessPal community because he just knows so much. But it's like you said, Tim, until you didn't start out that way. You started out
Oh,
trying to figure it out, and
well,
that's
yeah.
what is hard for people is where to start and in turning things around and going away from what's the easiest thing. And a lot of people aren't choosing the easiest thing because they're lazy. They're choosing it because there's precious few hours in the day.
hmm
So I get that, but it's very inspiring to hear that you and your whole family have fallen into a much healthier place.
Yeah, and really, I mean, I only can kind of sway what my family might eat for dinner, but
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, my kids still eat their normal school lunches,
yeah,
and my wife, she still eats, whatever she's eating at her work,
yeah.
but I mean, I can control what I pack myself for lunch or what I might have to, pick up for that day if I didn't get time to pack one, and I can control what we eat for dinner,
That's a
and
win.
yeah, and so
So awesome. Well,
it's
that's
not too
great.
hard, and the rest of my family isn't completely on the bandwagon, but just enough that it makes my life easy, I guess. So.
That's great. Well, rock on, Grabo family, because
Thanks.
it isn't easy, but it's just it's just kind of keeping your head in the game. We always say this and sticking with something until you figure out what works out best for you. So thank you, Tim. We're running out of time here, so we're gonna sign off. But I
No
did
problem.
I
Thank you for
did.
having me.
Oh, no, I did want to thank you so much for that because the more that we can hear, the more perspectives. I really, really want to get somebody like Howie Broyles. He has a website called Shrinking the H Man, and Howie is a lot more about counting calories. He's not completely low carb or anything like
Mhm.
that. I want to get more perspectives because I know we've been on an SNNG, no sugar, no grains kick lately, but I would love to get Kiefer and those guys back on to talk about the carb cycling, Jonathan Baylor and folks like that. I know Michelle and Keith Norris have said they'll come on the show. I just talked with them recently, and I'd love to hear more about the paleo movement and where their perspective is on how what people should be striving for.
Mhm.
And so hearing your story as just a regular guy that happened to be also following Vinny's advice and boom, 100 pounds later, that's very inspiring no matter
Mhm.
what people are trying out there, just to keep going down that fitness road. So awesome. Thank you, Tim.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thanks, Tim. It's been it's cool to obviously a kindred spirit, a father of three daughters myself. I'm happy for your success, and it's awesome, man. 100 pounds is tremendous. And I always think about that when you're walking through the store and you look at the Crisco and realize that it's 100 pounds of Crisco that's not on your body anymore.
Yeah, that's a 5 pound thing of Crisco, imagine. You
That's
know?
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
25-pound pails. So anyway,
Oh,
it's
good
awesome, and
night.
congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Big time, big time.
And yeah, congratulations to you guys as well. I mean, we're all making the same journey. So
Yeah, yeah. Congratulations to us for sticking with it. We're not where we want to be yet, but heck, man, I don't know that I'll ever completely be right there. So, it's a journey of trying to find a happy medium. So thank you very much for that. You're really helping with that. And I know you've
great,
inspired
great.
a lot of people today. I did want to tell people that, again, the show notes are at fat2fithq.com/114. You're going to find links there for like our MyFitnessPal community. Oh my gosh, that community exploded this December. We're so excited. We did the December challenge. We had people who checked in every single day. There was a challenge. So we have 5 people that won that. So I want to put a big shout out, and those guys are going to be on the show next week. We have Kim Walls, Kevin, who is Kilo Sierra 83. I don't know Kevin's last name. Sorry, Kevin. But we will know next week. We had John Hammer Jammer, John Ellis, who also checked in every single day, and Heron and Arturo, who have been on the show before. And so that's amazing that every single day for 31 days these guys checked in and said things, inspiring things, and we got so much inspiration there. And all these other threads took off from there. Jenny, she's got a great YouTube channel, Girls Like Guns Too. Jenny started Jen's January Jaunt, which is a challenge where we're doing 30 miles in 30 days. We've got the Whole 30 challenge that TJ Gaucher put out there. Some of us are doing other challenges, but we're all still checking in. Not everybody, but a lot of people are still checking in. So look for the link just to get in, for anybody listening who wants to just get some inspiration. The MyFitnessPal community has a great place to just stay motivated and keep yourself accountable and be inspired. We still have our Fitbitter site, even though Jack and I need to get back on board. My Fitbit's going to be here in 3 days. I'm super excited, so I'll be back there. And, of course, our Facebook page. Thanks, everybody who's liking and sharing the show. And the iTunes reviews are super important. So if you could leave us an iTunes review, that's very, very helpful. But, yeah, so, again, you guys, both of you, thank you very much for sharing your stories. And, Jack, as always, thank you for always being there when I need you, when I need a wingman. And a lot of fun.
Well, thanks for including me. It's always fun to meet somebody new like Tim and hear an inspiring story because it motivates everybody.
Well, thanks for having me on. I'll keep listening, and if you guys ever want to chat again, let me know.
Oh, we probably will.
All right.
We'll probably need you for a Tough Mudder in 2015. You up for that?
You doing any up here in Minnesota?
I don't know. Anybody out there that wants to do a Minnesota or somewhere around there, please email me at carol@fat2fithq.com, and we'll get y'all hooked up. Okay. Thanks, you guys. Thanks very much. We'll be talking to you both again soon.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks, Carol.
Okay,
Thanks,
bye.
Carol.
Thanks.
Bye.